Welcome, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to today's massive, breaking edition of the show. We are broadcasting right in the white-hot center of the 2026 NBA offseason, and the temperature across the league has reached an absolute boiling point. The draft is just 5 days away. Free agency is looming like a dark cloud on the horizon, and the dust has barely even begun to settle from a 2026 NBA Finals that will go down in the annals of basketball history as one of the most stunning, heartbreaking, and controversial championship series we have ever witnessed. As we all know, the New York Knicks just completed the biggest comeback in NBA Finals history, snatching the Larry O'Brien Trophy from the absolute grasp of the San Antonio Spurs. The streets of Manhattan are still covered in confetti. The parades are still echoing to the canyons of the city, but down in Texas, the postmortem has begun, and it is getting incredibly ugly, incredibly fast. The San Antonio Spurs were right there, led by the generational, universe-altering talent of Victor Wembanyama. They were on the precipice of initiating a brand-new dynasty. But in the absolute crucible of the finals, the pressure cooked this team. The cracks began to show, and today, those tiny fractures have completely erupted into a full-blown off-season earthquake that threatens to tear this young core apart from the inside out. We have massive, ground-shaking reports coming directly out of San Antonio regarding their number 2 overall pick from the 2025 NBA Draft, the rookie sensation, the young prodigy who arguably outplayed every single guard on the Spurs. Roster when the lights were the brightest, Dylan Harper. According to explosive new reporting from ESPN's Michael C. Right, Dylan Harper is incredibly frustrated. He is growing antsy, and his camp is officially demanding that he be named the starting point guard for San Antonio Spurs next season. Let that sink in for a moment. A 20-year-old rookie, fresh off a devastating finals loss, is reportedly stepping into the front office and demanding the keys to a championship-contending franchise. This is a massive, landscape-altering storyline because it puts him on a direct, unavoidable collision course with the incumbent veteran star, De'Aaron Fox. Fox, the 28-year-old speedster, was brought in to be the steadying hand for this young Spurs team. But he struggled mightily on the game's biggest stage, putting forth a disastrous shooting performance and making catastrophic mistakes in game for that directly fueled the Knicks' historic comeback. The fans are screaming for Harper. The numbers are screaming for Harper. And now, the reports say Harper is screaming for Harper. But just as the NBA world was digesting the prospect of an internal civil war in San Antonio, the narrative took an absolutely wild turn. Because Dylan's father, the 5-time NBA champion, the legendary Chicago Bulls and Los Angeles Lakers guard Ron Harper, caught wind of these rumors and took to social media to completely torch the report to the ground. In a fiery, old-school decree, Ron Harper shut down the narrative, posting that the reports were, quote, fake-ass news, and loudly reminding everyone in all caps that you do not demand a spot in the National Basketball Association. You earn a spot. The father directly contradicting the reported demands of the Suns camp. The clash between the old-school mentality of earning your stripes and the new-school era of player empowerment. The tension between a rising rookie superstar who knows he has the talent of James Harden and a veteran point guard who is desperately trying to hold on to his starting job after faltering in the finals. This is a definition of off-season drama, and we have to ask ourselves, how will head coach Mitch Johnson navigate this minefield? How will Victor Wembanyama react to the noise? And what does this mean for the future of the San Antonio Spurs, a team that has to win right now, but also has to manage the fragile egos of its rising stars? We're going to dive into all of the numbers, the true shooting percentages, the locker room dynamics, and the hidden messages in this entire ordeal. But as incredibly dramatic as the situation in San Antonio is, that is only the first half of the absolute madness we are diving into today. Because while the Spurs are dealing with internal power struggles, another young, highly touted, incredibly gifted player finds himself engulfed in the relentless, unforgiving churn of the trade rumor mill, seemingly for the 100th time in his young career. I am talking about the enigma himself, the physical freak, the man who seems destined to be perpetually dangled in trade talks until the end of time, Jonathan Kuminga. Let us rewind the clock just a few months. Less than 5 months ago, at the 2026 trade deadline, the narrative was supposed to be completely rewritten. Kuminga was finally freed from the Golden State Warriors. He was finally liberated from the rigid, motion-heavy system of Steve Kerr, a coach who never seemed to fully trust him despite his undeniable brilliance. He was shipped off to the Atlanta Hawks in a massive blockbuster deal that sent Kristaps Porzingis to Bay Area. Atlanta was supposed to be Kuminga's fresh start. It was a destination where he would finally get consistent, undisputed starter minutes, where he could stretch his wings and prove to the world that the Warriors made a colossal mistake. And for a brief moment, he did exactly that. He showed flashes of absolute dominance in Atlanta. But here we are in June of 2026, just days away from the NBA draft, and the winds of change are howling once again. According to Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, the Atlanta Hawks have spent the days leading up to the draft aggressively conducting their due diligence, engaging the trade market for Jonathan Kuminga. You heard that right. A 23-year-old rising star, a player dripping with two-way potential, is seemingly on the trading block for the second time in less than half a year. Why in the world would the Hawks do this? Because the business of basketball is ruthless. Kuminga has a team option coming up. He is approaching a massive payday, and the Hawks are reportedly questioning whether they want to open up their checkbook for a player whose flashes of brilliance are still occasionally overshadowed by bouts of inconsistency. When a front office starts dangling a 23-year-old on the open market, it tells you everything you need to know about how they view his ceiling. They do not view him as a foundational pillar. And waiting in the wings, watching the situation unfold with bated breath, like predators circling wounded prey, are the Sacramento Kings. The Kings, led by the relentless maneuvering of Scott Perry, are in the midst of a full-blown, top-to-bottom roster rebuild, and the rumors out of Sacramento are growing deafening. The Kings have been infatuated with Jonathan Kuminga for over a year. Even back when Kuminga was negotiating his standing with the Warriors, Sacramento was reportedly his preferred destination. Now, with the Hawks' interest in retaining him waning, the door has swung wide open for the Kings to finally get their man. But the cost will not be cheap. The whispers around the league suggest that to pry Kuminga out of Atlanta, the Kings are exploring massive, landscape-altering trade packages that can involve the likes of all-star big man Domantas Sabonis, or even the explosive scoring of Zach LaVine. We are talking about the kind of blockbuster, franchise-shifting trades that define entire eras of basketball. The Hawks want win-now talent to pair with their core, and the Kings want the ultimate young wing to accelerate their rebuild. It is a perfect storm brewing right in front of our eyes, and could all go down before the commissioner even steps up to the podium for the first pick of the draft in 5 days. So strap in, grab a notebook, and pay close attention, because we are about to take a massive deep dive into the underlying analytics, the financial cap implications, and the unfiltered truth behind both of these earth-shattering storylines. Let's transition directly into the deep dive analysis, starting down in Texas with the San Antonio Spurs. To truly understand the gravity of this Dylan Harper situation, we have to contextualize exactly what the San Antonio Spurs are right now. They are not a normal basketball team. They are a solar system, and Victor Wembanyama is the sun. Every single possession, every single roster move, every single rotation decision revolves entirely around the gravitational pull of Wembanyama. When you have a player that magnitude, a player who is already dominating the league on both ends of the floor, the timeline for a rebuild completely vanishes. You are forced into a win-now window before your supporting cast is entirely ready. This is an environment that Dylan Harper was drafted into. Selected number 2 overall in the 2025 NBA draft, Harper arrived in San Antonio burdened with the incredibly difficult task of being the secondary offensive engine for a team that had championship aspirations on day one throughout his rookie campaign. Harper was forced to sacrifice. He was placed on the depth chart behind Stephon Castle, who has rapidly emerged as one of the most terrifying two-way wing players in the association, and behind De'Aaron Fox, the established veteran point guard brought in to be the adult in the room. Harper was relegated to the role of a sixth man for a player with his pedigree, a player who was the absolute alpha dog his entire life. Coming off the bench is a jagged pill to swallow, but during the regular season, he played his role admirably. He averaged 11.8 points and 3.9 assists per game. Solid numbers, respectful numbers, but you could tell, bubbling just beneath the surface, there was an intense hunger for more. There was frustration. We saw it leak out on social media, with Harper reposting controversial TikTok videos earlier this month that hinted at his displeasure with the dynamic between himself and Fox. But it was in the playoffs where the narrative completely shifted. The San Antonio Spurs found themselves in an absolute gauntlet in the Western Conference. They went toe-to-toe with the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, a team stacked with elite perimeter defenders. And what did the 20-year-old rookie do? He elevated. The pressure did not crush him. It crystallized him. Harper averaged 12 points and nearly 6 rebounds against a suffocating Thunder defense. But that was merely the appetizer for his arrival on the grandest stage in the sport, the 2026 NBA Finals against the New York Knicks. This series was an absolute dogfight, and while the rest of the Spurs' backcourt melted down, Dylan Harper became a supernova. Let's look at the cold, hard facts. In the NBA Finals, Stephon Castle shot 37.7% from the field. Victor Wembanyama, dealing with constant double and triple teams, shot 42.3%. And De'Aaron Fox, the veteran leader, the man holding on to the starting point guard job, collapsed. Fox shot an abysmal 34.3% from the field, averaging a meager 12.8 points. Furthermore, Fox made critical, mind-boggling errors in execution and decision-making down the stretch of Game 4, errors that completely swung the momentum of the series and allowed the Knicks to mount their historic comeback. Meanwhile, while the veterans were shrinking, Dylan Harper was expanding. Despite playing the 6th fewest minutes on the team during the championship series, Harper averaged an incredible 18 points, 6.4 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. He was the second leading scorer on the entire team, behind only Wembanyama, and he did it with staggering efficiency, shooting 49.3% from the field and logging a true shooting percentage of 57.3%. The third best mark on the entire roster. He delivered a jaw-dropping 25-point performance off the bench in Game 5, attacking the rim with a ferocity that drew comparisons to a young James Harden. 7-time All-Star Joe Johnson went on a record stating that Harper possesses that rare, unteachable James Harden talent. When you look at the isolation scoring, the deceleration, the ability to read the pick and roll and manipulate defenders on his hip, the comparison is incredibly apt.so. Put yourself in Dylan Harper's shoes. You just went to the NBA Finals as a rookie. You unequivocally outplayed the veteran starting in front of you. You watched that veteran make catastrophic mistakes that cost your team a championship. And you know, deep in your basketball soul, that if you were given the keys to the offense, the outcome might have been different. Is it any wonder that his camp, as reported by Michael C., is getting antsy? Is it any wonder they are making a notable request to start next season? In the modern NBA, leverage is everything. While Harper is locked into his rookie contract and cannot become a restricted free agent until 2029, the threat of a disgruntled star in a locker room is a poison that front offices desperately want to avoid. The calls for him to start are growing deafening. The fan base is divided, fighting over De'Aaron Fox's value and demanding that head coach Mitch Johnson embrace the youth movement. But then, stepping into fray like a sheriff kicking open the saloon doors, is Ron Harper Sr., the 5-time champion, the man who went to war alongside Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Ron Harper took to social media and completely detonated his own son's reported demands. Fake-ass news. You don't demand a spot, you earn a spot. This is a fascinating psychological dynamic. Ron Harper is operating from an era where nothing was handed to you, where draft pedigree meant nothing if you couldn't defend, execute the triangle offense, and earn the trust of the veterans in practice. Ron Harper reinvented himself from a high-flying scorer into a defensive stalwart just to stay on the floor for championship teams. He is trying to instill that exact same discipline into his son. By publicly shutting down the narrative, Ron Harper is doing 2 things. First, he is protecting his son's reputation in San Antonio, ensuring that Dylan is not viewed as a diva or a locker room cancer by the fiercely loyal Spurs organization. He is painting the picture that Dylan is a high-character player with no interest in creating distractions. But secondly, he is challenging Dylan. He is laying down the gauntlet. He is telling his son, if you want De'Aaron Fox's job, you do not ask the front office for it. You take it from him in training camp. You outwork him. You outplay him until the coaching staff has absolutely no choice but to start you. This leaves head coach Mitch Johnson with an agonizing dilemma. Keeping Harper and Fox together is arguably what is best of the Spurs on paper. Having a three-headed monster in the backcourt with Fox, Harper, and Castle gives them relentless rim pressure and playmaking. Fox, despite his final struggles, is still a phenomenally talented 28-year-old who made a ton of positive plays for the Silver and Black throughout the regular season. The finals errors will serve as brutal, unforgettable lessons for him. But basketball is not played on paper. It is played by human beings with egos, pride, and ambition. If Mitch Johnson sticks with Fox, he risks alienating a future superstar in Harper. If he benches Fox as a rookie, he risks shattering the confidence of his veteran floor general. It is a tightrope walk over a volcano, and how the Spurs navigate this positional battle will dictate whether this team returns to the finals next year or implodes under the weight of its own talent. Now, let us pivot our focus entirely to the Eastern Conference, to the sprawling complexities of the Atlanta Hawks and the perpetual enigma that is Jonathan Kuminga. To understand why Jonathan Kuminga is on the trade block again, we have to look at the tragic flaw in his career trajectory thus far. Drafted 7th overall in 2021 by the Golden State Warriors, Kuminga entered the league as a raw, terrifyingly athletic specimen. He was built in a lab to play modern basketball. 6'8", a massive wingspan, the ability to jump out of the gym, and a devastating first step. But he was drafted into a Golden State ecosystem that demands incredibly high IQ, split-second decision-making, relentless off-ball movement, and absolute perfection in executing Steve Kerr's system. Kuminga was a jazz musician forced to play in a classical orchestra. He showed undeniable brilliance. There were nights where he looked like the best player on the floor, bullying his way to the rim and locking down the opponent's best scorer. But Kerr never fully trusted him. The minutes were sporadic. The leash was incredibly short. When the Warriors finally mercifully traded him to the Atlanta Hawks at the 2026 deadline for Kristaps Porzingis, the basketball world collectively exhaled. Finally, Kuminga was free. He was going to a team where he could be unleashed. And initially, the Hawks gave him exactly what he wanted: regular minutes and a green light. He impressed in certain games. He showed the Warriors exactly the kind of slashing, dynamic wing play they were missing. But the fatal flaw remained: consistency. The production oscillated wildly from night to night. And now, the Hawks are staring down the barrel of a terrifying financial reality. Kuminga is approaching the end of his rookie deal. He has a team option, and a massive extension looms on the horizon. In the modern NBA, under the incredibly punitive new collective bargaining agreement, with the first and second aprons acting as hard caps that destroy a team's flexibility, you cannot afford to hand out massive $100 million contracts to players you are not absolutely certain about. You cannot pay a player for flashes. You must pay them for foundation. And Michael Scotto's report reveals a stark truth. The Atlanta Hawks do not believe Jonathan Kuminga is a foundational star. You do not dangle a future superstar in trade talks just days before the draft if you believe he is the cornerstone of your franchise. By gauging his value, the Hawks are implicitly stating that they would rather use his current value to acquire a different piece rather than commit massive long-term money to his potential. Enter the Sacramento Kings. The Kings are a franchise in the midst of a radical, aggressive evolution. General Manager Scott Perry is not interested in a slow burn. He is executing a full-blown rebuild, stripping the roster down and looking for high-upside, athletic forwards who can run the floor and provide real, tangible wing depth. The Kings have been obsessively circling Jonathan Kuminga for over a calendar year. During Kuminga's darkest days in Golden State, it was an open secret around the league that Sacramento was a preferred sanctuary. Now the stars are aligning. The Hawks want to move off the financial commitment, and the Kings have the motivation and the assets to make it happen. The fit is surprisingly beautiful. Sacramento's timeline perfectly aligns with a 23-year-old Kuminga. He would not be burdened with the pressure of carrying the franchise immediately, but he would be gifted the minutes, the spacing, and the developmental focus he has been craving since he entered the league. The mechanics of this trade, however, are what make it a true blockbuster. How do you convince the Hawks to part ways with a 23-year-old physical marvel? The rumors suggest the Kings are willing to put massive, established names on the table. We are hearing the names Domantas Sabonis and Zach LaVine being floated in these discussions. Think about the magnitude of that. Trading Domantas Sabonis, a rebounding machine and an elite offensive hub, to the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks have repeatedly indicated they are serious about winning right now while maintaining flexibility. Pairing a cerebral, passing big man like Sabonis with their backcourt would instantly elevate their half-court execution and give them a completely different dimension offensively. Alternatively, dangling Zach LaVine offers the Hawks elite perimeter scoring and shot creation. For the Kings, trading an established veteran like Sabonis or LaVine for Kuminga is the ultimate gamble on potential over proven production. It is a declaration that they believe Kuminga, in the right environment, with the right coaching, can blossom into an all-NBA caliber forward. It is a massive risk, but in a Western Conference loaded with firepower, it is the exact type of high-stakes gamble a rebuilding team must take to eventually break through the ceiling. The chess pieces are moving rapidly, and the Hawks hold the ultimate trump card. They can keep Kuminga, try to negotiate a team-friendly extension, and hope the consistency finally arrives. Or they can pull the trigger, send him to Sacramento, and completely alter the power dynamics of both conferences. As we pull all of these incredibly complex threads together for our final takeaways, we are left staring at two very different young men at two very different crossroads in their respective careers, set against the backdrop of an NBA offseason that is moving at warp speed. On one side, you have Dylan Harper in San Antonio, a 20-year-old rookie who just tasted the bitter agony of finals defeat, but who also realized, in the midst of that fire, that he is completely built for this league. He knows he has the talent. He knows he has the numbers to back it up. He is experiencing the friction of ambition colliding with hierarchy. His situation is a testament to the immense pressure that comes with playing alongside Victor Wembanyama. The timeline is accelerated, the patience is thin, and the margin for error is non-existent. Will the Spurs yield to the undeniable offensive brilliance of their rookie and hand him the starting job, risking the alienation of De'Aaron Fox? Or will they heed the old-school wisdom of Ron Harper, forcing Dylan to endure the grind, embrace the struggle, and definitively earn his spot in training camp? The answer to that question will likely determine who hoists the Larry O'Brien Trophy in 2027. On the other side, you have Jonathan Kuminga, a 23-year-old veteran of the trade rumor mill, a player who has tasted an NBA championship from the bench in Golden State, but who has never truly been given the keys to a franchise. His situation is not about internal demands. It is about finding an organization that actually believes in his ceiling enough to invest their future in him. The Atlanta Hawks are staring at a financial cliff, and they are blinking. The Sacramento Kings are standing at the bottom of the mountain, looking for a star to carry them up, and they believe Kuminga is that star. If Kuminga is traded to Sacramento in a blockbuster deal involving Sabonis or LaVine, it will be the ultimate test of his career. No more excuses about Steve Kerr's system. No more excuses about a crowded depth chart in Atlanta. In Sacramento, he would be the featured wing, the athletic marvel the Kings desperately need to complete their rebuild. We are exactly 5 days away from the 2026 NBA draft. The phones in front offices across the league are ringing off the hook. General managers are working on zero sleep, crunching the salary cap numbers, evaluating the aprons, and agonizing over these exact decisions. The landscape of the National Basketball Association is about to experience a seismic shift. Will Dylan Harper force a trade of De'Aaron Fox? Will Jonathan Kuminga find his third team in 6 months? The tension is palpable. The stakes have never been higher, and every single move will have massive ripple effect for years to come. I want to hear from all of you. Get down into the comments right now and let me know your thoughts. Should the San Antonio Spurs bench De'Aaron Fox and start the rookie Dylan Harper next season? And what is a fair trade package for Jonathan Kuminga? Would you trade Domantas Sabonis to Atlanta to bring Kuminga to the Kings? Drop your trade machines and your analysis below. If you want to stay on the bleeding edge of all these breaking rumors, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell, and do not miss a second of our coverage leading up to draft night. Thank you for spending your time with me today, analyzing the beautiful, chaotic, and ruthless business of the NBA. We will see you next time.